all starts with an idea. So can I get a show of hands, anybody that does want to go on and produce their own show? Back, loads of people. Yeah, sweet. Do you want to produce a show with more than one person? More than 5 people? More than 10? Fuck yeah. All right, reach for the stars. All starts with an idea, and then you go backwards from that. So fundamentals of cabaret shows and circus shows is reverse engineering. So find out what you want to achieve and work out the way that you want to do that. So work backwards from that. What kind of a show are you producing? Like, what kind of things do you want to achieve? Do you want it to be a circus show? Do you want it to be immersive? Do you want it to be something with spoken word? All these things are questions that you have to ask yourself right from the get-go, because it's going to change your demographic and it's going to change who your clientele is. What does the audience want? Number one thing that I see quite a lot in techie performers is that it's very, very technical, but we forget the audience engagement. Like, that's number one paramount thing, is you don't forget who you're performing for. It's not for yourself. It's not for your client as much as he's paying your budget. It is for the person in front of you. So how can you engage with them? How can you get a response from them? Josh is incredible for this, so he does quite a lot of call and response stuff. I like to do things where you have moments with the audience, get eye contact, get one of those moments like, yeah, give me some noise, what? Like, it's good to get that engagement to make sure that they are with you and they're present as well. Focus groups is a great idea. So if you're going to make a show which is, for example, coming up now, I'm doing a new show called Cirque du Soleil, which is a take on Cirque du Soleil. And our demographic is LGBTQ+. So everything that we're doing, we are putting together focus groups and we're asking everybody, what do you think of this? What do you think of that idea? Number one thing, if you're selling a show, for anyone that wants to go on and produce, your branding is fundamental. You will lose ticket sales, up to 70% of your ticket sales, if you have the wrong colored photo as your advert. That's a fact. So your logos are important, your imagery is important, your branding, your tone of voice as well, when you're proposing things to people online as an advert as well. Okay, so what shows have you seen next to that and why? I would love to ask you guys, because I hate talking at people. So what is something you guys have seen that stood out and why? Raise your hand if you've got something. Go for it.
Stavrou Halloween show.
And why?
There's a lot going on stage. All the performers were quite striking. It was quite like in your face and musical, which I liked.
Amazing. So what made it like wow?
Specifically, I like swords. There's a lot of swords going on. There's a lot of sort of sideshow stuff which I hadn't seen before.
Nice.
Seeing something new.
This is good. So this is a really good point. So two of the things that, like, this is something that I've learned from Darren Brown, actually. So it's a little bit out of our industry. But Darren Brown says the way to make something memorable is to make it either scary or funny. So these are really important key factors if you want to have something that's like, whoa. There's an act that I saw in the box, which was something I'll never forget until the day I die. And it's because it was shocking. The lovely lady came on stage, butt naked, and let out loads of fairy liquid from her bottom onto the crowd. Rosewood. But basically, I'll never forget that because it was shocking. I'll never see that again. You probably never hear of it again, but it happened, you will never forget it. So you want to think about, how do you want to come across to the audience? Do you want to be having a memorable act? Do you want to have something that's like, wow? Or do you want to have somebody go, ugh, like I did, ugh. It's terrible. Read the room, so important. If you're doing freestyle, for example, on cabaret tours, you're going to have your shows, and you might have a moment that you get to ambient. If what you're doing, you're losing the crowd, find a way to bring it back in. Depending on what your skill set is, you're going to have your arsenal. So do think about your arsenal before you go on stage. Think about your arsenal as well. So think about all the things that you're going to need to do to re-engage with your audience. Say, for example, you're a fire artist and you're doing your thing and people are not engaging with you. Find a way to engage. If that means coming up close as you can and getting eye contact with that motherfucker that's not looking at you, do that. Find your way to engage, for sure. Or reading the room. Creation. Every process is unique. And that is what I started off with. It's super unique to you. So everything that I'm going to teach you is my own way. But again, it means something to you, especially your journeys as to how you achieve what you want to achieve. Advice is to start with the beginning and the end and fill in the gaps. So start, how do you want to walk out? How do you want to finish? What? So start with the beginning and the end and then fill in the gaps. So number one thing is to find a crescendo. So find your path in your show. So where does it lead? What's the narrative? What's the story? And why will people want to watch it? What is the purpose and what you're trying to get across? Do not overcomplicate. Keep it simple, stupid. It's called the KISS method, which is absolutely incredible because sometimes we can get all up in our heads when we're creating. Like, it can get to a point where you're like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is right, blah, blah, blah. You can get inside your brain. So trying to keep it simple is going to make it easier for your brains. And by God, we've got a lot to think about. So that's just one less thing to worry about. So this is a point that I've seen over the years. So this is, again, just from my experience. So the world I come from is commercial clubland and cabaret touring circuses. So some things that I've seen is the more technical, the less attention, because if we understand something, it's more engaging because you can relate. If you do not understand something, sometimes your brain can switch off. That doesn't go for everyone. There's an exception to every rule. But say somebody did a double cork twist and somebody else did a backflip. The people that are watching the backflip are the ones that are like, how the fuck did that guy do that? And the one that watches the cork is like, just looks like you did that, mate. But it is way more advanced. It's way more difficult. So just bearing that in mind, sometimes the simplest of things can be the most engaging if you make it engaging. Okay, revisiting your work after a break. Fucking yes. Do not get inside your head when you are creating a show. Do take breaks. Do come away. Do speak to your friends, your partners. If you're getting too much like chaos, come away, take a break, speak to a friend, get somebody to soundboard off of. Okay, what makes it wow? This is important. So what makes your show wow? Sometimes we can go, okay, I want to do an aerial act. And in that aerial act, I'm going to go all of these amazing flips and tricks. But what makes it wow? You have to have a build and a lull and a build again. So that first build is just that moment of like, ooh, look how special they are. And then the second one is the wow, wow, wow. So do work from that point backwards always. Like if you've got something that you're like, this is probably the most incredible thing visual, see where you can work it in towards the end of the show because that will be your crescendo as well. How do you think it will be perceived? This is a question that you need to ask yourself. How are you going to be perceived? Look at your act from an audience perspective. Get a video of it, film it when you're rehearsing, and then re-look it over as if you're trying and step outside of your own shoes and look at it as an audience member and see how it would be perceived.